out there, everybody? What's going on? This is Miho with the Too Close to Call cast, joined as always by my co-host Pags, and this is the Intentional Grounding.
That's intentional grounding.
This is our NFL-centric podcast where we decided over the next month leading up to the NFL season, we'll be diving all around each division to give you our picks and predictions on over-unders, who's going to win, and ultimately make the playoffs. Since we have Nostradamus on the line with us today, it's a good news for you guys out there. So let's see here, Pags. What did we do last time? We did two divisions. I know we did the West. Which other one did we do?
We did the South.
We did the South. That's right. That's right. So today we have lined up for you the AFC North and the AFC East. Why don't we start with the East, Pags? I know, a little bit of a curveball.
The easiest one to predict.
Yeah, exactly. Just because the North, I think, is going to have a little bit more conversation than the AFC East here. So as I'm looking at it, we'll start there. And as always, you start in New England with the Patriots, Brady and Belichick. This year's over-under has been set at 11.
Yeah, that's about right. I see 11, 12 wins. They have to prove to me that they're on the downslide before I ever jump off the Patriots wagon. And key additions here, they freaking had Michael Bennett from the Birds.
Yep.
They get Philip Dorsett. They re-sign him. Re-sign McCourty. Austin Seferian-Jenkins to fill in for Gronk right there.
Yeah, I was going to say, with all these additions, though, the one main subtraction that may swing the equation into the negative is Gronkowski not there, man, as well as it looks like Trey Flowers as well. So, I don't know. You mentioned a lot of guys there. Do you think Gronk outweighs them all?
Gronk doesn't even play in the regular season. He may play a little bit, but he didn't even play. And they added Demaryius Thomas at the end of the free agency there. So there's another weapon from Tom. If Demaryius Thomas comes off this ACL injury and proves he can stay healthy, I foresee him running all around the field in New England too. So I don't see anything coming out of the AFC East other than the New England Patriots as of now. But a lot of shakeup in this division because the New York Jets, who adds the big free agent, the guy who didn't play last year, Lev Bell. Do you see him putting up similar numbers in New York as he did in Pittsburgh?
Le'Veon Bell, to me, is similar to Kawhi Leonard in a way that sits out an entire year. Maybe he was injured, maybe he wasn't. You feel like he's going to struggle when he comes back the next year just because people who typically take a year off and then come back to the NFL aren't as good as they were. However, this guy was really in a class of his own, and his running style of the wait, explode is one that he doesn't take a lot of huge hits, which is why he was able to touch the ball over 300 times in Pittsburgh. And with Sam Darnold and some of the additions on the offensive line, I know they added the guy who Osamele, or however you say his name.
Yeah.
I think they're going to ride Le'Veon Bell as long as they can because, in my opinion, you paid the guy for 3 years. That's all you're looking for. So after that, run him ragged for the next 72 months and see what the hell happens.
They had him. They had Jamison Crowder in the slot there from Washington. Ty Montgomery to spell Le'Veon. So this Jets team has the potential of, I would say, probably 500 this year, depending on how Darnold plays. Potentially taking a step even further in the next year. I mean, they signed C.J. Mosley, the stud linebacker from the Ravens, to a 5-year deal. So the Jets are making moves, and I think a lot of it's going to fall on old Sammy Darnold. So whether he can take to the next step forward and be that quarterback and prove that USC quarterbacks don't suck in the NFL, I think that's the main thing that we're going to have to watch for in New York.
Yeah, that and the questions around infusing all of that talent that you mentioned just because they were all free agents and not a lot of them came through the draft. And we've seen once in Philadelphia, the dream team doesn't work. However, for the Los Angeles Rams, everything ended up okay after adding a bunch of outside talent. So how that infuses itself, as well as the ultimate wild card in the equation, the head coach Adam Gase, who knows how the hell he's going to be able to run that team, because up until now, he hasn't put together a 12-4, 11-5 squad. So the over-under at 7.5, it sounds like you may be leaning towards the over with the New York Jets.
Yeah, I don't foresee them as a playoff team by any means, but I could see them getting to 8 wins there and being in it for a little bit of the year and then kind of falling off.
Well, They would get the 8 wins here, Pags, by beating up on these bottom 2 squads. We have the Buffalo Bills, the over-under set at 6.5, and the Miami Dolphins in the cellar with the over-under at 5. So if you're getting 6 and 5 wins from those 2 teams, you got to think the Jets and obviously the Patriots, they're 5-1, 6-0 in the division. So it's just going to be a matter of if the Jets can go 4-2 and beat up on these 2 teams.
Well, let me start with the Dolphins, because if you're a Dolphins fan and you're looking at key additions and you see Dwayne Allen, tight end, Ryan Fitzpatrick, and Eric Rowe as your 3 key additions, I don't think you're feeling too hot about your season coming up.
Well, that's where I'm reading here myself, Pags, and it looks that there's more talent than people realize because of everyone they lost to injury last year who will be returning. So not free agent additions, but additions to last year's team, and those are Kenny Stills, Devontae Parker. It looks like 2 other gentlemen I don't even know here because I don't watch a lot of Miami Dolphins ball, but it seems like the wide receiver options may be there. You got Kenyon Drake running the ball, Gesicki in the tight end role. I don't know, man. It all comes down to that quarterback position and Josh Rosen. And honestly, I have never been the biggest Rosen fan, even when he was coming out of the draft and ultimately went, 10th or 12th overall to the Cardinals last year?
Oh, and gets traded after a year.
Yeah, exactly. And then they got Ryan Fitzmagic down there as the backup. So, he's going to win a game or 2. He always wins a game or 2, dude. You're going to get a month out of him where he goes 3-1, and I don't know, 5, maybe a little low. I could see 6-10 out of the Miami Dolphins.
Okay, I'm going to go lower because I just think they stink. They're going to get 1 win when New England comes into town because they always beat New England, whether it's a Hail Mary, lateral, or whatever. They're going to win 1 game.
That's it.
There.
That's it.
And
so the last
I don't
team.
foresee many after that.
The last team we got is the Buffalo Bills, over under 6.5. What do you think up in Buffalo after they made a surprise playoff appearance not too long ago?
Yeah, 2 years ago, playoffs, and then they kind of blew their team up and started from scratch and had a ton of first-round picks. Made a lot of moves this year, adding Cole Beasley there, get him out of Dallas, John Brown, receiver out of the Cardinals. So I don't know, man. The Bills are tricky because they always seem to be not as bad as people think. But again, same song and dance as the other 3 teams in this division, other than the Patriots. It's going to be on a second-year quarterback to see how well he can play. And Josh Allen has shown stretches where he can freaking rifle the football. He can make plays with his legs. He can hurdle over a Minnesota Vikings player and put his nutsack on his helmet. But when it comes down to the stretch, are they playoff caliber team? I would say probably not.
I don't think they're a playoff caliber team this year, but I do like the direction the Bills are taking because I think they're taking a little bit of that 3 to 5 year approach when it comes to building a football team because, as you mentioned, they got Josh Allen, who they believe is their quarterback, so you're set there for the next couple of years. And then this past year in the draft, they added Cody Ford, offensive lineman, as well as defensive lineman Ed Oliver. So went from the quarterback position to the trenches, and now the next move for them is going to be getting Josh Allen a few more weapons on the outside. But if you can keep the guy upright, and it looks like they got a few more veterans on the offensive line here that could help do that more this year, with Shady in the backfield, they could be more competitive than 6.5. So not a playoff team for sure, but a team that in a year or 2 could be surprising a few people.
Let's just say I'm very happy that the Eagles have to play this division this year because you got 3 second-year quarterbacks on there.
Oh, yeah.
I'll sign up for that all day.
For sure, for sure. But big picture, AFC East, we got 1 playoff team. It's the New England Patriots because based on the AFC North, which we're about to drive into, the West, and the South, which we did, there's way too many wild card teams that are going to be ahead of the Jets or Bills for those slots?
Well, let's start with it. Let's start with the defending AFC North champions, the Baltimore Ravens, and their stupid offense that is the most boring thing to watch in the history of sports.
It's going to be interesting to see how that evolves over the offseason because you're finally going to have Lamar Jackson as the guy. Joe Flacco was taking a lot of the offseason reps, and obviously the offense from Flacco to Jackson is going to be a hell of a lot different. Now, I think, yes, they did go to two extremes because this is going to be the easiest thing to teach Lamar Jackson over the course of a couple of months. But now that we have all offseason, all walkthroughs to implement a little bit more of maybe a read system or a short passing game, easier one positional reads like a high-low read instead of scanning the entire field, I'm curious to see if Lamar's passing stats are going to improve because we know the guy's going to be able to run around and scramble and make plays just based on his athletic ability.
He's not going to have to hand the ball off to Gus Edwards, who was my fantasy football starting running back last year because he had 12 touchdowns, but they were all 1-yard touchdowns. They added Mark Ingram to the squad, so a little long in the tooth, but you know that man's still got a bunch in his tank to play, so that'll help him out. And then adding Earl Thomas on the defense after losing C.J. Mosley and Eric Weddle, it'll be interesting because the Ravens you can never count out because they're always that gritty team that always seems to be in it. So Baltimore is going to be a tough team to beat, and the other teams in this division have so much turnover. It's going to be interesting to see Baltimore Ravens can keep the reign of the AFC North champions because as we have talked about in the past, there's a team in Cleveland that is stirring up some interest in Vegas's eyes and the whole NFL template.
That's it, man. And the Ravens over-under set at 8.5 this year. And as you mentioned, the Cleveland Browns, their over-under is at 9.
Wow.
A lot of parity in the AFC North with teaser of the Pittsburgh Steelers over-under at 9 as well. So 3 teams, 8.5, 9, and 9. But the Cleveland Browns seem to be the darling of the NFL with Baker Mayfield taking that next step, in your opinion, after what was a tremendous rookie season for the kid.
You hope he doesn't have his second-year woes. It always seems like it goes one way or the other. It's either a mediocre first year like Carson Wentz, and then boom, second-year MVP caliber, same with Jared Goff, or you have the guys like Baker Mayfield where they kill it their first year, like Dak Prescott, and then the second year is like, oh, well, that's more realistic of what I expect out of this guy. So it'll be interesting to see how Baker is, but they sure put enough weapons around him to make sure he doesn't have that sophomore slump.
The addition of the offseason, in many people's opinion, Odell Beckham Jr., as well as his former LSU teammate, Jarvis Landry, in the slot there with him. So it's going to be interesting to see how those two old friends compete with each other with Baker Mayfield. But like you mentioned, man, the NFL now has some film on Mayfield. So they know what he's good at, what he struggled with, and they're going to put him in more of those positions where he had trouble reading this type of defense or reacting to this disguised blitz and things like that. So I'll be curious to see with the coaching change. Now they stayed with the offensive coordinator from last year who Baker seemed to get along with. And like I mentioned, dude, they're the darling of the dance right now, man. A lot of the money rolling in on Cleveland to take that next step and potentially even reach double-digit wins.
I mean, how could you not? They added Sheldon Richardson, the defensive tackle, Olivier Vernon on the defense. I mean, this team's defense was pretty damn good last year, very opportunistic, and adding more weapons to both sides of the ball. I can't imagine what Cleveland is thinking. They must be chomping at the bit to start this NFL season. I just pray that it doesn't go south and then you see a bunch of Cleveland people wanting to freaking jump off a bridge.
Yeah, right? This is the first time there's been hope in Cleveland, and it's genuine, actually. So yes. The next squad in the AFC North, the Pittsburgh Steelers, Pags. Their over-under is still at 9, even though they lose Le'Veon Bell and Antonio Brown. I don't know if they're going to reach that number.
Yeah, adding Dante Moncrief and re-signing Eli Rogers doesn't do it for the fans as much as Le'Veon Bell and Antonio Brown, but you still got James Conner, who had a crazy year last year, and you think that he could probably do it again, and you still got Juju out there who's a stud. So it's not like they don't have weapons on the team, and you still got Big Ben.
You say they extended Roethlisberger a few years, so ultimately he's not going anywhere.
And the Steelers are the same as the Patriots. Until you prove to me that Big Ben is done, I still think the Steelers have their hat in the ring every time of the AFC North.
Before I make you pick who you think's going to take this division and how it's ultimately going to shake up, we have to do our due diligence and talk about those Cincinnati Bungles with the over-under at 6 and what looks to be like the team that everybody's going to beat up on pretty good in this division.
The first year without Marvin Lewis in how many years?
Too many years, man. That guy, I'm not going to believe that he's gone until they're actually on TV and he's not there anymore.
Exactly. I've been so used to seeing him, but you got the redhead and Andy Dalton out there who is the epitome of not bad enough to bench, but not good enough to get you anywhere you want to go.
AJ Green's kept him afloat for years.
Yeah, is TJ Houshmandzadeh still on this team?
You say Houshmandzadeh, I say Houshmandzadeh.
And then you got Tyler Eifert, who is always on fantasy watch lists to be a breakout tight end, and then he's always hurt for about 9 games out of the year. This team's in shambles. Shout out to my buddy B.W. Webb getting a 3-year, $13 million deal.
There we go.
Out there, played with him in college, so hoping to see big things out of him in Cincinnati, but I don't know, man. I think you're right. The doormat of the AFC North goes through Cincinnati.
That's it, my man. That's it. So we got Baltimore, Pittsburgh, and Cleveland. How are those shaking up here to close out this episode?
I'm going to go Baltimore at 9-10 wins. Cleveland probably fighting for a wild card spot right there. I don't know if they're going to get into the playoffs, but I do see them fighting for it. And then Pittsburgh right there, too. I could see it coming down to a game like last year where Pittsburgh wins, and then they're waiting to see if Baltimore loses, stuff like that. So I think all 3 of those teams, but I ultimately think that the Ravens are going to end up taking the division again.
Ooh, I'm going to disagree with you here. I have the Ravens finishing 3rd place in this division.
Whoa!
Yeah, man. I'm going Cleveland 10-6, Pittsburgh 9-7, and Baltimore 8-8 in that order.
Wow.
I am jumping on the Cleveland bandwagon. Mayfield, Beckham Jr. is finally going to want to play. That defense is going to continue to evolve. I think we're finally going to see some postseason football in the dog pound.
There it is, my man. I'll be very happy for Cleveland fans if that happens. I don't think they've been in the playoffs since 1998 or whatever. They lost to the Steelers in the playoffs. So, man, it's like when the Bills made it 2 years ago. It's like, oh, yeah. I'm happy for that team. Now that the Birds have won a Super Bowl, I don't care who wins the Super Bowl if the Eagles aren't in it.
No more first-timers. We don't give a shit.
Yep, go ahead. Go win yourself one as long as it's not against the Eagles.
That's it. But you Browns fans out there, call into the pod. Let us know how you're feeling. If ultimately you think you're going to finish 3rd, like Pag said, or 1st, like I did.
Let me ask you this, Miho.
That's
Do you
it.
see any team out of this division making a serious run for a Super Bowl?
Potentially, I think so. I mean, you get a home playoff game against the wild card team as the Browns. If the Chargers come to town and it's shitty weather in Cleveland, I think they could make a move. So, for sure, dude, I think and anytime Pittsburgh makes it, you're not going to count out Roethlisberger again. The only one with Jackson in Baltimore, I'm just not buying that one as a threat to really challenge for the Lombardi.
Well, that's exactly why I think no team in this division, because I think the Ravens are going to win this division, and I don't see Lamar Jackson winning a playoff game. So there you go. That's where my thoughts are at.
There it is. So hotline number 484-238-0735. Let us know your thoughts. I'll put it in the link to the episode on iTunes, everywhere you guys find it. Follow us, like us, give us a rating. Too Close to Call Cast, iTunes, any podcast platform, and we will talk to you guys next week where we're finally going to make it over to the NFC.
Best league in the NFL, baby. Let's go. All right, guys. We'll talk to you soon. And like you said, Hotline, Training camp's coming up. There's going to be some injuries. There's going to be all kinds of shit happening. I want instant reactions from all of you. We will talk to you guys next week with some NFC teams. Later.
Peace.